The day Salvadorian journalist Víctor Barahona's life unraveled started with a knock on the door. It was the police.
As we were walking down the steps of my house, one of the officers handcuffed me and said, "You're under arrest under the provisions of the state of emergency." I was first taken to La Esperanza Mariona jail. There were 230 of us in a space fit for 70, 80 people max. It was down to basic survival there. They'd give us a single glass of water for the whole day. We'd drink half in the morning and half in the afternoon. We began falling ill. We'd get fungal infections, skin sores, boils, fever. I was then moved to a maximum security prison, Izalco, where we slept on the floor. The guards would punish us, call us rats or worse. They said we were going to die there.
Barahona's ordeal lasted almost a year. By the time he was released, the circumstances of his arrest were no clearer. He received no official release letter, and the police accusation against him remained unchanged: collaborating with gangs, also known as pandillas.
Look, my arrest was due to me being a journalist. There's no doubt about that. I hosted a TV show where we talk about the community's needs, lack of employment prospects, challenges with education, and access to public health resources.
¿Cuáles son las causas por qué los salvadoreños emigran?
Se nos menciona el alto costo de la vida, el desempleo, la corrupción.
Esos programas que no le gustaban.
The government didn't like these kind of programs. We'd also discussed the state of emergency and the innocent people being taken away to prison. The state of emergency didn't just put a stop to the gangs. It was to neutralize us, the independent press.
El Salvador has a commissioner for human rights and freedom of speech, Andrés Guzman. He denies Barahona's case had anything to do with his profession.
No es un caso de un seguimiento periodista por sus pensamientos o pronunciamientos.
This is not a case about a journalist and his statements or opinions. This man was never a political journalist. Even if he was, the fact that he is a journalist does not exempt him from having meddled with gangs. When someone is placed under arrest, this order is carried out by state prosecutors who have evidence of incontestable facts.
In reality, the evidence being used against Salvadorians is anything but incontestable. Since President Bukele's state of emergency was declared in 2022, El Salvador has had the highest rate of incarcerations in the world. Out of a population of roughly 6.5 million people, more than 80,000 are currently behind bars. Many are held without evidence, in degrading conditions, with no contact with the outside world. Journalists, especially community reporters who shine a light on social issues, have been subject to Bukele's iron fist, or mano dura. The sweeping crackdown on gangs has also led to the restriction of constitutional rights and press freedom. In 2024 alone, the Journalists Association of El Salvador recorded 467 attacks. These include arbitrary detentions, intimidation, phone tapping, and seizing of equipment.
It's not just the fact that we're under constant attack from the government. We also have no mechanism that protects our rights. Because here, the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Chamber, and the Legislative Assembly all answer to Nayib Bukele. So if journalists are faced with legal proceedings, an appeal to the Supreme Court, for instance, we know what their response is going to be. They're going to turn their backs on us or laugh in our faces.
The situation has darkened substantially since 2022. All platforms of access to public information have been shut down. Journalists are operating in a void because the government's propaganda machine has engulfed television, radio, and social media. Those journalists who are committed to holding the powerful to account through their work are like salmon, constantly swimming upstream. Bukele sees us, the free press, as an obstacle to the absolute takeover of Salvadorians' minds.
There are no restrictions whatsoever in terms of freedom of the press. Quite the contrary. In the 2 years I have worked for the government of El Salvador, there wasn't a single journalist who has been arrested, nor a single smashed-up camera or news item that has been taken down from social media.
Commissioner Guzman's assertions are not true, but that isn't surprising. They're part of Bukele's strategy of controlling the narrative, inside and outside El Salvador, rebranding the small, impoverished country into one of the safest countries in the world. How? By using a media and PR apparatus to whitewash controversial policies and a brutal crackdown on crime. And it's working. Bukele's approval rating is 91%. These kind of videos of El Salvador's biggest prison, the Terrorism Confinement Center, or CCOT, show the media machine at work. Slick and set to upbeat music, they became an instant sensation.
Estos peligrosos pandilleros no los pagarán en una cárcel común, sino en el centro de confinamiento del terrorismo.
Such videos reinforce Bukele's brand. He is what many critics call a millennial caudillo, a digitally fluent, at times irreverent, strongman.
Bukele
is an expert in digital marketing. These videos that look as slick as commercials show how calculating the president is in terms of selling his version of reality. It's just marketing. But in terms of propaganda, they've been very effective in pushing the notion that Salvadorians will only feel safe by discarding due process, basically by killing democracy. But this isn't something that would trouble the great majority of those who suffered at the hands of gangs. That's the paradox.
Their strategy is effective because in addition to telling people we fixed your most pressing problem, it succeeded in sowing new fears among the public. Unless Nayib Bukele gets another 5 years, the gangs will be back out on the streets.
Y así, señor presidente, si hacemos una comparativa y recordamos un poco de la historia, en los gobiernos anteriores, como en Arena y el FMLN le habían entregado los penales a todos esos grupos terroristas.
Their carefully curated messaging and propaganda helps them sell whatever anti-constitutional decisions they take very effectively. Bukele took the fight against criminal insecurity and made it cool, an issue as delicate as the safety of citizens has turned into showbiz.
Es un show.
It was all just a show, a very different prison. I'd like a video showing Izalco prison, where many people have died, where I almost died. Actually interviewing inmates, asking what they've gone through. But they won't do that. They make videos that are acceptable for an international audience.
Realmente algo distinto.
An audience in which Donald Trump has a front row seat. The US president made sure to remind Bukele of that when he sent his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, on a visit this month. Not that Bukele needed much reminding. He was cozying up to the American right far before Trump was re-elected. Even Trump's cutting of foreign aid to El Salvador plays to Bukele's advantage, since some of those American dollars helped keep independent media outlets, critical of the government, in business. And Bukele is offering Trump a quid pro quo in the form of CCOT. He's willing to make room at his mega prison for American criminals, so he and Trump can be tough on crime together.
Right now, President Bukele has better access and more sway than ever with Washington, which is promoting the suppression of civil rights, along with the persecution of journalists and human rights advocates. In spite of this, and the current funding crisis in the media sector, we have seen a new crop of very brave journalists who are shining a light on the murky, corrupt ways in which this government is using its power.
No nos van a callar.
They won't keep us quiet. Journalists have a commitment not to governments, mayors, ministers, or bankers of this country, but with those who need our reporting the most. If I or a colleague dies, someone else will take our place. If they shut down a channel today, we'll just do it from someone's living room with a phone tomorrow. But we will carry on reporting.
Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and leave us a comment to let us know what you thought about anything we covered this week. And don't forget to follow us on social media. The links are in the description, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter for updates from the show.